The connections between science, our planet, and our existence are undeniable and inextricably linked. It seems the more scientific answers we discover, the more questions we have. The profound and boundless nature of how things work,
of what the heart looks like beating,
and how people can be nurtured to become better students of scientific knowledge has been the guiding passion of a certain scientific society for close to 125 years. Its name, Sigma Xi.
Sigma Xi got started in 1886 at Cornell University. And the main impetus behind it was to recognize research, research by scientists, research by engineers. And it has grown substantially since then. It is an organization that exists around the world. We have we exist in chapters. We have chapters at universities, we have chapters at industrial facilities, we have chapters at national laboratories. We have about 500 chapters.
As one of the oldest, largest, and most influential scientific organizations in the world, Sigma Xi was noticeably inclusive of female and minority scientists long before it became politically correct. Today, Sigma Xi has members in more than 100 countries worldwide.
Members are nominated usually by a thesis advisor, and it's in recognition of something they've already done. For example, completed a PhD thesis. Over the many years Sigma Xi has existed, about 200 of those nominated members have ended up winning the Nobel Prize.
Those Nobel Prize-winning members are commemorated at the Sigma Xi Hall of Honor. Greater awareness of science is one of the organization's main goals.
We started the Distinguished Lectureships in around 1937, and it goes back to the basic point of trying to get information across to not just the public, but also into small colleges where they don't have access to leading researchers. And so what we do is we select between 20 and 30 people who by themselves have already done a fair amount of outstanding research. They commit to give a couple of lectures over the next 2 years, and the lectures are primarily to go to small schools and get the students exposed to what it means to do frontier research.
Honoring those up-and-coming scientists and engineers with membership is another very important goal.
It's critical for Sigma Xi to continually add to its membership because Sigma Xi is a living organization, so it needs new members, new blood, new ideas, new initiatives to stay current. And without that, we tend to be biased towards the members that we've had for 50 years or more. So we need those new members to help come in, and also because our older members learn as much from the new members as the new members learn from the older ones. So it's really a fertile community when you get people at all different stages of their scientific careers involved.
A crucial part of the process is the groundbreaking Grants in Aid of Research program.
Yeah, Sigma Xi supports up-and-coming scientists primarily through a program called Grants in Aid of Research, which has been around since 1922. And if you go back and look at the people who have won these grants over the years, you'll find these incredible scientific luminaries like E.O. Wilson. And this is a guy who's the father of sociobiology. He's a professor at Harvard. And he won a Sigma Xi Grant in Aid of Research. And he and Tom Eisner, another eminent scientist, took a couple $100 and toured the country. And it was the start of their scientific careers. That kind of research isn't something that young scientists can get from NIH or NSF or any of these other granting agencies. Sigma Xi is really alone in providing that kind of support.
One of the first things that I did as a grad student was actually apply for a grant in Aid of Research. My advisor is a Sigma Xi member, so of course he knew about this and recommended that I apply, and I actually got one. That was my first grant for specifically for this PhD project, so it felt like a good vote of confidence getting started. It was small, a couple $100, I think, if that, but every bit helps.
Receiving the Grants in Aid Research Fund allowed me to be able to travel to the Western United States to study some of the volcanic rocks that I study. And traveling is very expensive, and certainly being a graduate student, free funds are not readily available. So the Sigma Xi Grants and Aid Research Fund allowed me to travel to Colorado 2 separate times, which was paramount in completing the research.
They do. They recommended conserving and restoring the forest in a way that connects leftover habitats. Public Radio International just about a year ago found out it got a $2.1 million grant from the National Science Foundation to increase its coverage of science on its daily news magazine, The World, and then also to have a weekly science podcast. And it's that podcast that I'm involved with. Sigma Xi is a partner with Public Radio International in this project.
Climate change, nuclear power, stem cell research, these are all very important topics these days which require a level of understanding that unfortunately much of the public doesn't have.
One thing that the podcast does that is really important is it takes people, listeners, to parts of the world that they would never go to themselves. So they may be hearing about, how water quality and fish reproduction in a lake in Cambodia that they would never see themselves, that they wouldn't experience.
ELSA also helps produce the online magazine discussion forum, which allows the public to dialogue directly with scientists from the podcast. And then there's American Scientist, a truly historic icon in scientific publications. American Scientist has been published by Sigma Xi since 1913.
American Scientist was founded in 1913. It started out as a quarterly bulletin, a way for Sigma Xi members to keep each other up to date on what they were studying. And over time, it has evolved into an illustrated color magazine. It published every other month. So I became an editor at American Scientist in 2003, and I had been a postdoc in neurobiology at Duke University. And what I found through my PhD and my postdoctoral experience is that I gravitated much more toward the story of science than the doing of science. So I became a member once I became an editor here at American Scientist. And at American Scientist, the magazine is distinctive because it takes scientists who are in the lab doing research and helps them tell their own stories.
From my own experience in discussing these articles with non-scientists, they also find them very readable and very easy to understand. So that's a key way that we spread our word about the value of science. In a country like the United States, which is based on technology, if the public doesn't understand science and technology, eventually it's not going to support it. And so our big concern always has been to maintain an understanding, and we try to, through our magazine, through things called science cafes, through meetings, through the local chapters, reaching out to the local communities, to get an understanding of big science issues.
Through initiatives like the Science Cafes, where scientists and the general public meet informally at local cafes and restaurants, Sigma Xi is breaking new ground in science awareness. Yet none of these important achievements or goals could be met without Sigma Xi's donors and supporters.
You don't find people who can escape the influence of science and technology. And so an organization like Sigma Xi that exists to connect research scientists in their careers with the general public, it serves a purpose that no other organization does. It's indispensable. Through its continued excellence and passion for promoting the public engagement in science, Sigma Xi serves a role in society that no other organization does.
Now more than ever, the pursuit of scientific knowledge is critical to our lives and the world we live in. With consistent support and public awareness, scientific breakthroughs will continue to be made, thanks to historic organizations committed to science and scientific leadership. Companions in zealous research. This is the motto of Sigma Xi. Sigma Xi, the Scientific Research Society, founded at Cornell University in 1886. Sigma Xi elects bright, young scientists with outstanding potential in research today. The Society includes nearly 60,000 active members in more than 100 countries worldwide. Sigma Xi celebrates more than 200 Nobel Prize-winning members in a distinguished history of more than a century of service to science and society, supporting science and engineering through grants and aid of research, distinguished lectureships, interactive science cafes and newsletters, and the prestigious American Scientist magazine. Sigma Xi, a nonprofit independent society. We're making a difference in science and engineering. For more information, please visit sigmaxi.org.